morning, Chillville. It's the Doppelgangers here for Chillhop Radio. Spring has finally arrived. The sun is shining and the birds are singing. But it's still a little chilly out there, so make sure you wear a jacket, baby. I'm trying to keep it cold in here. Today, we got some real
Hey
spring
everyone,
jams
so in
lined
this
up for
stream I'm
you.
going to start the
So sit back,
process of modelling
relax,
this brawn
enjoy the
wet and
show.
dry shaver.
Next hour is gonna be
I've
a doozy.
chosen a particularly tricky reference image for it, which is just a single from the top down. This is to try and match up with the kind of stuff that would actually get to work. Realistically, you very rarely get the perfect reference from all sides that you would need. So as always, I'm going to model this in full sub D. I do all my work in Modo. And the bottom right hand side of the screen is the command history, so you can see what shortcuts and everything that have been used in there if it's of any interest, or drop a message in the chat and I can try and give you some more information on what I'm doing. A lot of the time I use a lot of custom shortcuts, so if there's anything that is weird, it's probably that, so I can really easily explain it for you. So let's get started with this one. I've already dragged my reference image in here. I've already sized up, so it should be about 15 centimeters, which matches up roughly with the scale of the actual shaver. Then here, so what we're going to do for this is an approach I would take if I'm actually working is to put it into the simplest shapes you can and then work up more detail as you go. So essentially this can be described with three spheres, and from there we can build everything off of it. So we'll get started by doing that. Pop that over there. Okay, so as I was saying here, yeah, this can all be described with three pretty simple spheres. We'll have one in the bottom here, one in the middle for, there's a, I don't know if this will show up in the camera, you can see there's a slight curve at the end of it. So we'll need to bevel that over. And then at the very end, you've got a larger cylinder. Well, all these will all connect together really easily. It'll make sense as I go here. We'll start off at the base. If you're in the center to start with, it's much easier to solve that now than figure out later on you weren't working from the actual center. It'll take a bit of extra time just to make sure these all match up exactly, because everything gets built off of these. So any mistakes we make now will propagate through to the final model. So that curve starts just near the end there. Yeah, that's fine. That make another side profile. Everything at this stage is very rough, so there's a lot of eyeballing, there's no measuring or any precise work as of yet. Pretty close in profile to what I want there. Now it is slightly squashed, so we just go ahead and bring that in a little. Slightly wider at the end. Right. This down a little extra, just to be roughly in line with the top there. Now you don't need to do this, but I just always like to quad off everything. Don't like to have these polar verts full of triangles. To get that nice curve in there, we're just going to do a really simple bevel on this. To topology is not super important for this mesh, as it's just a collider to build from. It's got enough in there so it will hold its shape. Yep, that'll do for their base, so let's name it now so we don't get confused later on. Go and say we got a collider. Get working. So what we're going to do is start from the smallest objects out. So if you're making anything circular, always start from the smallest one and work out. Otherwise you'll find yourself bringing in lots of edges which you probably don't intend to the center. What should have been a 12-sided cylinder is going to end up being like 50, 60 sides, way too many. It's much easier to control it by going out, which is why I'm doing this option of building out the collider and then working from there. Again, just to be sure, and we stick onto the simplest shapes. Edge in there just to hold all this together and start. This is just to hold everything, because afterwards when we're going to copy this up we'll need some joining points. We can start defining this inner shape. Again, this is all going to be very rough for now, just to get our topology in place, and afterwards when we project it, that's when we'll start getting the shape. Get this with a mirror just to make it a little bit easier. It flares out just ever so slightly. This edge up here. Yeah, that's fine. I switch back and forward between sub D and standard, so that way I can see if there's any errors. For instance, if one's missing, or if an edge doesn't join up, it's really obvious when you sub D where the errors are. It's a quick way just to check your work. Shape in there, and then we're going to work outwards. So I'm going to copy this into a different layer because we're going to use the same mesh. This should match up pretty well. Get this to roughly match that shape. Good there. We need to make sure these all match up, because we're going to join everything together. Could do this mirrored, might be a little bit easier, but just for the tools that I use, it's just as quick. We'll do that in the next stage. The support loops in there. It's fine, so we'll bring it into that other mesh. For this, I'm going to split it off just to speed things up a little bit. Cheating this bit a little. Extend it and cut it back in. Make sure we get a nice working length. It'll look ugly for just a minute, and then we'll be able to get that resolved. Side, good. And the support loop back in. So. Device, good. Do a similar thing again. I'm going to copy this one into a different layer. Snapped and lined up. We're going to do the similar things we did at the top. I'm going to overextend everything and then we'll cut the lines back in afterwards. to edit this here, it's fine. So that should all join up. Over here. Little detail there we're going to need to add in. Let's get this main shape done first. Detail on this end, it's looking a bit sparse. Alright lad, how you doing? This is going to be a face shaver type thing. Trying to figure out how to do all the streaming side of things, so just literally went to the bathroom and picked the first thing I could find that looked mildly interesting. And as you can see, it's still pretty fresh, it doesn't get much use in this house. This thing would die if I tried to run it through my face now. Complete waste of money. Yeah, it's completely for practice at the moment. This is just something kind of simple, just to get started in the whole streaming side of things. This is the second attempt at tonight. The first one I had everything set on a widescreen here, so it's like a big curved widescreen I've got, but I had all my settings on Twitch very much wrong, and stupidly didn't watch my stream to check if it was working or not. So this is my trial and error run. I've got a little handheld 3D scanner on the way that I'm going to start scanning everything around the house, making it properly, and then selling them. Because of buying things like stupid shavers that I don't use, I need to try and make some of that money back. Simpler. Yeah, it seems to be running pretty nicely. Still trying to figure out all this Streamlabs stuff, but if I've set it up correctly, just save this, I should have my super cool transitions that I totally made myself and didn't just buy a template off of a website. Use all geometry now. Speed this up a bit. Probably coming at some point later on to get rid of this, because this is this is ugly, but good enough for this first pass. Back together. Do a bit jiggly pokery here. Do this and make it not ugly. Hello to Pupper then. Mine is very much sealed out the room for this, so it'll be jumping all over the keyboard, breaking everything. And those dogs, it seems to think it's a cat. So I do everything flat first before I project it, so we can get rid of all these weird topple errors when it's nice and easy. Just trying to do this on a curved surface later on is going to ruin your day. Interpretation there. Much better. Yeah, it's still pretty hideous. Let's just stick with this one for now. We'll come back and do something to it later on. Grand, right. Chuck some super basic materials on these just so you can keep track of what everything is. Get that saved. I'm going to do a copy of this just in case we destroy it. Collider back on. Set this to have a background constraint. We need to add a little bit more detail on that edge there, it's not holding up. Nice then. Their shape, we've got pinching. Yeah, to work on this edges a little bit. It's fine. Add another loop in.
Don't cry.
It's garbage. Interesting. Let's cut this out so we can. Take this curve. This is kind of super boring at this stage, but it's really important to get these things fixed now before later on. Should hold up a little better. Almost feels like there should be an edge in there. I'm gonna totally screw with this, but then I'm gonna need to add these all the way around. Well, so be it. That's not too bad actually. What's this? Have you tried messing with Unreal 5? I have not. The last one I used was Unreal 4. It's pretty impressive technology, but it's a very different way of working from what I'm used to. So I'll probably go back to it at some point in the future with this. They're saying the sheer kind of density of mesh that it can handle. But for now, I need to figure out how this thing works first before I try any other fancier stuff. You know, streaming for half an hour before I realised that my head was squashed because of the compression of the video. So got quite a ways to go yet. Nicer now. So in a ring was that shape. It's looking a lot more promising. eyes out of it. Much nicer. Ooh. Yeah, I think Rocket League's probably just a little bit more exciting to watch than this. It's not really the there's not going to be any esports in modeling, that's for sure. Just tidy these, pretty ugly. Check a loop. Happy days. That's good. Same thing again, but hopefully this time we get the result we're after. Collider on. Background constraint. Pinching that was going on. Good. Events. Split in here. Base is up immediately at that edge. Flatten this button off in the middle. Soften this curve a little. Spare button. little pocket for this thing. That dude. This one we're just going to bevel in, it doesn't need an actual pocket. The idea with this one, it's got kind of a little lens on top, so we need to create a little trough for it to go into. Body. Look at this. Topology all matches up, so we can just cheat it with that. Flip it, bridge it, bevel it. And it crashed. Awesome. Again. Windows. Well, that's a little bit annoying. Let's look at these shapes and make sure we're going in the right direction. Split and named. start with that charging light this time. Yeah, just gonna add a little extra detail in here that might come through. Probably won't see it, but I'll know it's there, so that's all I care about. Light, flip it, so we can add a nice bevel. See-through. None of that was spelt right. You can see that wee detail underneath. Good. Start with this thumb button. Okay, so it's actually part of the other one. We don't want to split that off. Depression for the tip of the thumb to go into. It's wide bevels, so it's soft, it's made of rubber, so we don't want these super sharp edges on them. Rubber. Similar process here. A little indent. sharp edge on this one. So we're not going to do rounded bevel, we're going to have a sharp bevel. Also turn your wireframe on and off just to make sure you haven't got any weird pinching or anything like that. Still this. Match up nicely. Super crisp edge, good. Be directly attached to the body. It's just a super sharp line in there. Right, it's the same material. Good. Now, there's a slight oddity in this thing that it's somewhat flat across here. Just slightly, it's not much, but it's enough that it's very noticeable. We're going to auto connect, we're going to keep this flat. Right, good. This needs to be flat further in actually. So connect these two, we'll get a little bit of that transitional curve. Should. Delete everything. Let's try that again. Much better, yeah, we get that curved in at the flat bit. There. Surging light. indent ring around the outside, which is a very similar material, so we're going to reattach that to the body. Pull this in, shove a loop, and the big test to see if the PC survives this while streaming. If you're just watching this and you can idea what I'm up to, so just a test to make sure everything works, the full workflow while I'm streaming. So I've got no idea if the PC can handle all this at the same time. Be okay. Super basic materials on there. Start by adding in some kind of nicer environment. Get some basic materials as well, just so we can get some kind of idea what it looks like. Rubber. Get some plastic. There's no maps on there, it won't work yet. Let's stick them in the plastic for now. PC seems to handle that okay. The Octane's picking up these materials very well. That's fine right here for rendering. Cool, I'm pretty happy with that just for now. I think the stream seems to have worked. PC can handle everything. Cool, so I'll pop this, probably all this gets popped up onto my YouTube once I get everything working. The links are all, I just skip to the next one. All the links. No. This is Modo. It's made by a company called Foundry. So they make things like Mari and Katana, which you're probably more likely to have heard of. I use this just for modeling. It's very similar to Lightwave if you've ever used that. That's what I learned to model in, so it was a pretty easy transition over onto Modo. For the renderer, if I switch back to that screen, this is just Octane GPU renderer that I've got in here. It does have its own built-in render, which is pretty nice, but unfortunately it doesn't use GPU, which isn't the end of the world, but spent all this money getting a GPU that was pretty decent, so I'm damn well going to get everything out of it I can. So as I say, I'm going to end it here because this was just a trial run just to make sure everything works. If you want to see the recording of any of the modelling, I've got at the bottom of the screen there the socials, so you've got the Instagram, the Twitter and my YouTube. What I'm going to be doing is anything that I make on here when I get it to a finished level, I'm going to be putting up for sale as well. So, no idea if it will be of any use to anybody, but it's just a way to essentially keep this. So this is like my hobby, but it's also my job, so I'm planning on doing this in the evenings just as a way to keep everything a bit more fun and exciting, and maybe as a way to help people out with creating models or helping them learn how to do them. So if you are interested in any of it, feel free to go and follow me in there, follow me on here, and I'll speak to you next time.